Looky looky, a game that wants me to stay indoors and cream my cookie. For years some people have claimed that playing video games would never achieve anything and that we should go outside and grow as people. Well, look at us now, in our element and literally saving lives by doing what we do best. Staying indoors, not socialising and playing video games. I couldn't think of a more relevant game to play while we're all in lockdown staring at screens talking to increasingly stranger people on the internet. Stay takes the hypothetical situation Saw victims find themselves in and puts its own unique spin on it. This scenario that the writers have used shows an understanding of emotional intelligence because naturally people would want to save someone who is in this situation. It's a smart hook. Now, I've had my eye on this one for quite some time, and luckily I managed to notice it on a sale and picked it up for a few gold beans. What drew me to Stay was not only the unique setting, but the themes it covers. Anxiety, death, loneliness and depression. You know, the things one has to suppress before finishing the morning coffee, just in time to leave for work. Something I want to make a point about is the art style, because this is how I think games should look if they want to do a nod to 8 and 16-bit games. There's enough of the blockiness here that you know what they're going for, but there isn't so much that the game looks like shit. This is important because for me, if a game is too blocky, it not only looks unappealing, but it can be hard to figure out what the hell things are. In Stay, we talk to our new pen pal, who has been kidnapped and dumped in a PC gamer's basement. Of course, because it's a PC gamer's basement, it's a rutty little dungeon and the only thing that works is a toaster of a PC. The objective of the game is to help Quinn escape, while keeping him level-headed. Now, I like that the devs could be bothered to show me Quinn being kidnapped at the start of the game. It was a good early indicator to me that this game was going to be written well, because I could imagine other developers would have just gone with the lazy amnesia thing. At this point, any story that has the main character suffer from amnesia just comes off a bit lazy and unoriginal. After the introduction, we guide Quinn through a Resident Evil-like house. I say it's like Resident Evil because the house has rooms you'd never expect to find in any house, and it comes with its own obscure puzzles that need to be completed to progress. When you talk with Quinn in the text chat, you decide what his next move will be. If you choose correctly, you'll progress further through the house. If you choose the wrong option, then poor Quinn dies by one of the many booby traps set up for him. The thing is, it's hard to choose the wrong option most of the time because Quinn will keep persuading you not to choose it, giving you multiple opportunities to change your mind. This is a subtle failsafe built into the game to prevent you from choosing the wrong option. At times, you would have to be really maladjusted not to get the hint. But if, like me, you manage to miss all these warnings, then you'll have to redo the previous chapter over again. Trust me when I say this can be annoying, not only because you'll most likely have to redo a puzzle over again, but you'll quickly notice that Quinn types as fast as your nan filling in a PIP form online. Now, as with all text adventure games, there's always an illusion of choice. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you choose because you'll progress regardless. Even though Stay has this, the writers have done a good job of not overusing it and have masked it pretty well where they have used it. They have masked it by having Quinn say very different things for each option you choose. The only issue some people might have is that if you choose the wrong thing, then replaying a chapter and choosing the right option does boil down to trial and error. I hope you can remember the right answers for when they come around again, because I certainly chose the wrong options a few times after not paying attention. Mainly because my attention went elsewhere while Quinn was typing what I had already read. The problem I had was, by the time it came round to choosing the options again, I had kind of forgotten the wrong option I chose in the first place.
Well, it was tough for me, so back off! Sorry about that.
The other way you can fail a chapter is by not playing the game, because if you leave Quinn for too long, he will kill himself. This felt a bit drastic and rushed, which led me to think that they could have done something more subtle to tell us that Quinn needs more attention, and to point out the fact that there's a correlation between loneliness and suicides. I think what they could have done is made Quinn aggressively needy and controlling, with increasingly peculiar behaviour the longer you leave him for. That would have shown some of the ways in which people react to loneliness, and it would fit in with Quinn's personality quite well.
Perhaps.
I do feel that there's never enough exposure about the dangers of loneliness. However, I think due to lockdown people have a better understanding of it. Isn't it strange how we're overpopulated but people feel lonelier than ever? Let's just blame the internet rather than entertaining the hilarious theory I came across that people are evolving to become solitary creatures. So your homework is to personally take on a small part of the responsibility to decrease the number of lonely people. After all, it's a social problem, so who better to solve a social problem than people? In your own time, preferably not through the internet, is to talk to a lonely person. You never know, you might give someone a lifeline that they desperately need, and you might even find a new friend. Or a new stalker. As an added bonus, you can declare to karma that you've done your good deed for the day and you can go back to being an asshole for the rest of it. Personally, I feel that I meet my minimal humanitarian duties by talking to my postman. I don't do it because he brings me nice things like games and various medications. I talk to him because I think his job is actually quite lonely. Sadly though, he's a wise man and never takes up my offers to come in for a cup of tea.
Run, little rabbit, run. But someday our two worlds will be one.
The text adventure part of this game is split into two sections. One part is keeping Quinn focused and moving forward, and the other part is comforting him and keeping him calm. All the time I was playing armchair psychologist, I had to keep these in balance, but the game does keep it interesting by baiting and switching which one it wants at any given time. Personally, I think Quinn is a bit of a narcissistic baby who forgets that I'm his only lifeline, because he can get very touchy when I've had enough of talking and want him to move forward. He's told me a few times that I'm a cold-hearted person, which is obviously ridiculous, as I'm sure you can tell empathy is one of my interpersonal skills.
You're laying in bed next to me gabbing like a 16-year-old girl on the telephone. You freaked me out, man.
Quinn's dependence on us does open up a lot of interesting dialogue, because he used to be a psychologist, albeit a self-confessed bad one. This means there's plenty of interesting discussions about philosophy, psychology and sociology. Most of the discussions with Quinn are interesting because, like most people, I have a keen interest in all of the subjects I've mentioned. The really sad thing I became aware of is that I've had better discussions with Quinn than I've had with real people online.
Oh, that's a big boy, isn't he?
In the discussions with Quinn, he does mention quite a few interesting things that I looked into further.
Learning is fun.
I always appreciate a game that subtly tries to educate the population from being the general ignorant simpletons we are.
I find this meatloaf rather shallow and pedantic.
What made me laugh about Quinn is that he's one of those pretentious people that get on a high horse because he can reference a few movies. Problem is, Quinn, my tolerance for your false superiority complex only stretches so far. I don't care what films you've watched, I literally have control over your life, you little bitch.
You will respect my authority.
Yeah, right.
There's also items that you collect throughout the game that cover more of the history, culture and art side of things, which again I really liked because nerds like to learn. I have to say that I also really enjoyed the puzzles as well, because each of them are unique and challenging enough to feel satisfied when one is completed. Most of them take a bit of playing around with to understand what is being asked of you, but the map puzzle was just too obscure for me to figure out by trial and error alone. I mean, what the hell does any of this mean? I don't know, so I cheated, and I'm glad that I did, because after seeing the solution, I know that I never would have figured it out by myself. I still don't get what it's asking me, and I've watched the video of how to solve it. Another clever and subtle puzzle of this game is that we have no idea who we are. We could literally be us in real life, or we could be part of the reason why Quinn is here. This means we're not only trying to find out about Quinn and trying to figure out who has kidnapped him, but we're also trying to figure out how the hell we fit into all of this. Stay kind of feels like a snuff film that has merged Saw with Crystal Maze. I imagine the show would be set up like the film Slashers or Running Man, with a host like Jigsaw, who tasks a member of the audience to save his latest victim from his house of death. There you go, Stephen King has already solved the problem of how to execute inmates on death row and make a profit from it by turning it into a TV show. This game's ability to keep the player invested relies on the quality of its writing, because with limited gameplay the player really has to get engaged with the only character it has and uncovering the mystery. But I think Stay has enough variety and depth as well as an interesting narrative going for it that it manages to pull it off. The writers have certainly put a lot of effort into making Quinn a believable character. Flawed, uncertain, logical, but able to throw in a joke every now and then. The typos are a nice touch as well, and gives the grammar Nazis something to feel special about. But little touches like the typos and him being a film buff personalised his character that helped me see Quinn as a person. From there I cared about helping to free him. Now I definitely think there is a place for this game in most people's collection because it offers something unique, laid back, easy to play and thought provoking. It's a nice change of pace, casually put it on and mull over the choices. This is the sort of game that shows what indie titles can offer at their best, something truly unique, fun and well polished. As indie games go, I think this one stands out from the typical shovelware that floods the stores. It's sad to see that there's only 4 reviews of it on YouTube. How does something like this slip under the radar? This game should definitely get more attention than it does, but unfortunately that's like a lot of good things. Finding this game for me is what I enjoyed most about gaming, finding something special and picking it up dirt cheap.